Show me the money, Mr. Matrix. That is
show
the
you the
talk.
money. What for?
Talk of the week. 13, 14, 15, $16 million deals out there. 10 years. Lock them in. Even if you're worth 500 or 600, you can get these deals apparently if you have the right management.
I thought you'd show you the money because you backed the two multis last week.
No, but you did a very good job on the multi selection. So well done, Mr. Matrix.
I've got to say, on a serious note, you're 100% right. Listen, let's touch on the Brown signing. It's an Alan Bond moment. You take the deal every day of the week. Good luck to his management. Good luck to Dylan Brown. He's got an outstanding deal that looks after his father and his family. I have to say some sadness that the kid has been in the Eel system since he's 14. There's been a lot of stuff done behind the scenes to really look after him and his development at both a football level and a personal level, and his family. So it's sad that you put all of those years into a young fella and then get shafted, in my opinion, the way that they have, especially by his manager. And there is just so much misinformation out there about what's unfolded in the background. And unfortunately, this podcast is public because there are a lot of things I'd like to say.
Hey, zip it, Mr. Matrix. Well, anyway, he's been offered a once-in-a-lifetime deal for probably 200 NRL players, let alone one. If you run the numbers, the average NRL career is still around 27 first-grade games, so call it a season, and he signed a 10-year deal. For the life of me, I don't understand why clubs have to table such long, extensive deals. You don't see it in any more more mature sports like the NFL, where you have high impact, lots of injuries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's the first thing. And I think the second thing just reeks of turning up to an auction to buy a house and you're bidding against yourself. Who was the competition? Who was the competition to the Knights? Why did they have to pay 1.3, 1.4?
Which is the key point, because there was no other bidders. And all the bullshit that was written in the media, which
correct.
was fed by the manager, there was no one else. And listen, I can understand in this particular game today that if you feel like you've got the right man, that you might consider, and I would only do it for a key playmaker in a spine role,
which he's not.
You might consider a long-term deal. He's a 6. He's not a 7. He's not a director of play. He's not been a standout. I mean, I coached against Andrew Johns when he was 15, and Matthew Johns was in the same side. I mean, it absolutely reeked of a guy that was a superstar that then went on to be a superstar. Those guys are obvious for the people that are watching the game that are in these development roles. Anyway, good luck to the fella. He's cracked an outstanding deal and he'll set him up for life.
Going once, going twice, $1 million. Hang on, we've got a bid over there and it's the same person. 1.3. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Anyway, good on him.
On the back of this, there are some dominoes that are going to fall. This will have a flow-on effect. I'm not convinced that the current key people that the Knights will be there next year. There's been scuttlebutt.
Sorry, hang on. Are you talking players?
There's been scuttlebutt for 10 weeks that there's machinations in the background that have been going on about Brown moving to the Knights and Ponga moving to the Roosters. Let's see what unfolds. I'm not suggesting it's done. I can certainly confirm that those discussions have been ongoing for 6 weeks and the Roosters are in play. Then there's other machinations around what impact that has around the league. Galvin's unsigned, Wishart, Pappenhausen, a few other key people. It frees up money elsewhere for people to be signing. And, there's lots of flow-on effect.
100%. There will be a lot of knock-on effect when you've got a $12 million salary cap, top 30 players, and we'll get a snowball, and it might be an avalanche.
Steve, did you pick the round last week?
No, but five of our tipsters did.
Unbelievable.
5. So we only, the $500 jackpot's pretty simple. It only goes to 1, and we had 5. So don't think that we're splitting it at this early stage of the season. We will make adjustments as we go if we're getting no traction with one picking it. But to 5 punters last week, well done. Wasn't the easiest round to pick.
No, not at all. No, they picked 8 and absolutely nailed it. And they're at top of the table. We had 241 players. And, the other thing is, Stephen, we had
how many knocked out? How many knocked out in
10 or more knocked out
in the last man standing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get the rules very clear. If you don't read them, and we will put out an email before Thursday night. It will go out. Mr. Matrix, can it go out tonight, maybe, or early in the morning?
Yeah.
Just with the details around last man standing. You can't pick the same side. So whoever you picked last week, you can't pick them for 2 weeks. Whoever you picked against, you can't pick them for 2 weeks.
The next 2 rounds, that's correct. So let's give an example. So last week, there were people that picked the Broncos.
Yep, they can't use the Broncos as their last man standing again
this week, and they can't use the Broncos next week. But importantly, they tipped against the Roosters, who this week play the Panthers.
So they couldn't pick the Panthers.
Correct.
Yep, okay, I like this. This is good. Good.
And I had somebody send me an email. Great questions, but I had somebody send me an email. What happens if we get to 26 rounds and the knockout comp hasn't been won?
Oh, please. We would have run 4 by then, whoever that bloody...
There's a fair chance of that. Hey, he's in the tipping comp. Let's not knock out contributors.
No, I'm just saying that he could quite well be a wealthy contributor, because I reckon we'll run 4 of these things. Okay, righto. Let's get on to 8 o'clock on Thursday night, McDonald Jones Stadium. We have the Knights versus the Dolphins. Bit unfortunate for the Dolphins last week. They didn't have many cards fall their way. They had to move a home game. Then they had a few players that wanted to stay home and look after their families, understandably, during that cyclone, which we all experienced up here. That was this podcast is not about cyclones. It's not about rainfall. It's not about wind. But that's not fun. So let's just cyclones fuck off. We don't want you back. So for those players that hung around, good on you. I think it was the right decision. Knights favourites here, healthy favourites.
Yeah, it's been a market move too. It's been 1.5 to 2.5. Then it's gone to 4.5. Yeah,
4.5, as in Knights giving 4.5 start to the Dolphins.
That's right.
Okay, and that's on the back of basically losing their back row.
It has.
Cow and Connolly. I'm going to call him Lululemon.
That's where the market move's been.
Got some ins, but I mean, you got Max Viega back in, Mark Nichols, Cody Nicarima is a big one, Kenny Bromwich. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting angles to this. I mean, those 3 outs are important, and it means that one of their starting back rowers and one of their very key back rowers off the bench, who had a very good season last year, are both out. The best try-scoring winger is out in Bostock, who was out last week. Then the dislocation of, they went up hill and down dale to try and get home off Saturday night in Sydney last week, and then they were scheduled to train on potentially Monday, possibly Tuesday. Both were washed out. Their ground was underwater. Then they moved to Newcastle. My understanding is they've only had one proper training run and then a captain's run into this game. So there's just so much dislocation in the background. The Knights, their best football is at home. They've won the last 3 against the Dolphins, 3 out of 4. But as I suggest, at home is where they do play their best. And their defence has been their strength. It got them into the top 8 last year. Last week, they were down 8-0 at half-time. They kept it to 8 to end up winning 10-8. Listen, their attack was horrible. They need to do a lot of work around the construction and setup and all of that sort of stuff. But I hope off the fact of playing a game under game and winning position that they learn a bit and can change some of that this week. The other key point here, Steve, is that their record at home at covering the line is very good. And that market position that was earlier in the week at 3.5, I thought was the right way to play the game. Now 4.5.
When you say very good, what are we talking? What are the numbers like in the last 10 sort of home games or? there or thereabouts.
Yeah, no, their record at home against the line is excellent. They've covered 6 of their last 8, and their record when they're a home favourite at covering the line is also very strong.
Okay, righto. Okay, so you're tipping the Knights.
I like the Knights, and I think
you
they
like
cover
the Knights, and you think they cover 4.5.
Very interesting the points in this game, and I suggested last week I'm just watching points at the moment because I just want to see what's unfolding with the
as in total points.
Total points.
Yep.
The influence of the middle and just the general game flow that we're seeing. But 46.5 is the lowest position we have of the week, all but equal with the last game. I think it'll be under that. I think we'll see a bit of a arm wrestle, bit of a low-scoring game, something like maybe a 24-14 sort of result I'm expecting.
So under 40.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, we go on to the 6 o'clock game. This will be interesting. Warriors have had obviously quite a decent break since a very poor performance in Vegas, and they're coming up against a red hot, white hot, whatever you want to call hot, Sea Eagles side who are, well, geez, they're short, 130, 135. Not many ins and outs here. Pretty static Warriors side, and that's the same pack that started last week for the Sea Eagles. All 3 Travojevics in the side. Cherry Evans, Luke Brooks. Cherry Evans. He's the only person, as an example, where a 10-year deal has worked. Just as an example, just touching on Manly. Probably because he just hasn't been tackled, but he's still playing very close to the peaks of his power. He's playing some great football. Was very good last week. Can we? I don't know. Warriors are just so hard, aren't they? Is this going to be one way?
Oh no, I don't think it's one way. I got a massive question mark on the Warriors. I was very disappointed about their offering first up.
And this is in Auckland. This is in Auckland, Mr. Matrix.
Well, that's true, but the problem is their record at home last year was horrible. They only won 4 of their 10 games in Auckland. It was a year before that they were very good there. So they're going to have a full house, but there has to be a redemption factor here for the Warriors because they were so poor when they travelled to Vegas. They deers in the headlights. They just didn't turn up. They missed 31 tackles in the first half. That's all attitude. He's gone with the same team. They've clearly had a bit of an internal focus. They really need to aim up here, and they'll need to against what the Eagles offered last week. A couple of little key things, though. The Eagles had so much go their way in the first half. The Cowboys did 100 more tackles just in the first half. Absolutely got trampled, I know, but there was no pushback. There was no defensive offering. The other key thing is that the Eagles, while they win on the road, they're very, very poor when they're when they're a poor.
Is that Dylan Brown? Is that Dylan Brown's manager?
Away covering the line, 1 of their last 6, and
Really?
5 of their last 16. It's very poor. So they're giving up a line here that's now 8.5. I think the Eagles win. I can't touch the line.
Yeah, I think this is one you just don't.
And Stephen, we said weeks ago, watch these first 4 weeks. There's going to be underdogs winning. You got to go looking and find the right underdogs. But the Warriors in that position at 8.5, they're in that game all the way into the second half.
I want to see the Warriors successful. Like, what they went through with COVID, I want to see them win. But, gee, they're just hard to get behind because they're so inconsistent. They've got lots of talent, but, I don't know. It's a real hard one. I'm not 100% sure that Roger's being used correctly. I love Luke Metcalf. Is he a 7? Is he a better 6? Running 6? I don't know. Anyway, they've got some work to do.
I hated how the 6 and the 7 worked in the first game.
They were poor, weren't they?
They got a week of a redemption. I thought a couple of the big blokes in the middle were poor. But the key thing, which both the coach and the captain touched on after the game, their hit and stick was horrible. Their contact was terrible.
Okay, so this is we're thinking avoid. Friday night second game. Now, who would think the Roosters' second game in would be getting 21.5 start against the Panthers. The Panthers pretty much unbackable. $1.06. The Roosters paying $9.50. Yes, you heard that correctly. $9.50. The only thing I'd highlight here for the Roosters, are we going to see some like real mad activity in the player market?
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd have to think so, wouldn't you?
Well, we just touched on they've been talking to Ponga for 6 weeks. It doesn't mean that happens, but they've been talking to him. There's other guys. If there's one club that's not going to go through a 3-year rebuild, it'll be a 3-month rebuild. It's the Roosters.
Mm. All right, totally agree.
And coming into this, they've now got anywhere between 8 outs. Walker. On the back of last week, they lose Radley. The 2 Butcher boys, Leonard's still out. The 2 Smiths are still out. I mean, it's just a really long list of quality outs. This week, they had to get dispensation from the NRL to bring 2 guys up outside their top 30 squad to play off the bench for this game. I mean, they're in dire straits. And of all teams that they need to play this week, it's the Panthers. The Panthers have beaten them the last 10 times, and in, I think, 7 of those 10 flogged them.
Last 10?
Last 10 straight.
Ouchie wower. Let's be clear here too. This is a Panthers home game, but it is at CommBank, so Parramatta's ground.
Which is where they're playing their home games this season.
Yes, correct. So no changes to the Panthers. Jack Cole remains at 6. I think that's good. I like Jack Cole. I thought he was very good first game. Scotty Sorensen, 2 games in a row. That's good for him because he ran into some injuries last year. We see one change in the centres. Garner is out, back to the bench. Tago comes in. Tago's there. Alamotti goes into the centres. Toho and Casey on the wings. What do you think here? Restart?
Oh, you just think of a number and double it. I mean, Panthers win and they win comfortably.
Okay, so you're thinking they might win by 25?
Yeah, possibly. Am I betting the game? No, I'm not going to play in round 2 with a 21-point start, but I think that they win and win comfortably. And we'll talk about the Sharks in a moment. The Panthers and the Sharks come off the highest rating and best quality game of round 1. Panthers are now been home for 10 days. They go to CommBank. They could rip this game apart.
And they've also had a big rest too. Okay, we move into Saturday, the early game. So the 3:00 game. This is down at Wollongong at Wynn Stadium. It is the Dragons versus the Rabbitohs. Jared, just please put all the fires out that anyone that wanted to check in on my mental well-being on Saturday at about 5:50. I'm okay. Not happy, but I'm okay.
I got message after message either on Twitter or on SMS saying, "How's Condo? He's been talking him up."
Oh no, I haven't been talking him up. I just named their whole squad. But anyway, righto. So let's go through it. The Dragon.
No, don't go through the whole squad.
No, I'm just. Let's just go through the game. Dragons first up. They don't have. They've still got the big loafer on the wing. There's not many changes there except for Blake Laurie coming onto the bench. He adds a lot. Fucking hell. And then the Rabbitohs have been decimated. I think they're another side that have had to get dispensation, haven't they, from the NRL?
Yeah, they are.
They've run into a lot of injuries. You've got Tyrone Munro out, unfortunately, a real talent, that kid, and Jack Whiteman is suspended. So Fletcher Myers comes into the centres. Good to see Campbell Graham backing up 2 weeks in a row, and Bailey Bentley Hape makes his debut on the wing. Jamie Humphries was good last week. I think he's going to probably hold that halfback spot down, don't you think?
Yeah, he was. He was very good, and they've got 7, 8, or 9. Depending on which particular guys out for the Rabbitohs, and I'm really surprised at, I guess, the media focus and the market focus this week. I just think that the Rabbitohs have probably been glossed over a little bit and maybe boosted I don't think anybody's taking into account the depth of those outs, in particular the 7 that are normal starters for them. And then it was 5 last week, plus some additional guys that were also fringe players unavailable. You then add to that White and Munro that both started, and it's a really dislocated and weakened side. And a number of those guys are key rep players. It was all about Bennett's magic last week. He just kept it really simple. The focus all week and clearly into the game was just about the really simple basics of holding the ball, field position completes, a good kicking game. Let's play at the right end and just come up with enough points, which they did.
I like this. You're talking the Rabbitohs up, which means you're going to tip them. I like it. This is good.
Gets them a 16-14 point win when in the last 15 minutes I thought it was a game that could have got away from them. And they go into a Dragons team that, were poor last week. I thought there was a little bit about, maybe attitude, deers in the headlight. I just thought they got a little bit ahead of themselves.
They were good for 20.
Which 20?
The first 20. It was a decent contest for the first 20. After that, it was terrible.
But outside of that, the issues that they had in both defence and handling with attitude, weren't they? It wasn't, and some of them were their experienced guys. And I just think, for mine, watching the game, it looked to me like they'd got ahead of themselves off the back of a good pre-season preparation. They were believing a little bit of that hype. The sort of stuff that's there that they were doing wrong last week, an experienced coach like Flano can fix. You add to that they're down to Wollongong, so they get back-to-back home games. But their best form of anywhere is at Wollongong. And the Rabbitohs, when they go to Wollongong, it's poor.
Oh, no. You're angling back towards the Dragons.
Well, the Dragons, off a loss, win 7 out of their next 10 when they play the following week, and a very good record at the Gong. I can only go with the numbers. My numbers are that there's a bigger gap than the market here. In all reality, I don't think the market's factoring in the outs for the Rabbits, the key factors for the Dragons, and I'm at least 10 between them.
Oh, dear.
Should we move on?
This is 2 weeks. Oh, this is fucked. This really is not good. I can't talk. Okay, Cowboys versus Sharks. Oh, jeez. Talk about a side that needs to bounce back. Cowboys. Cowboys are at home up in Townsville, taking on the Sharks, who have had a decent old rest. Pretty much in line with the starting side that played in Vegas for the Sharks. Atkinson on the wing. Yep, Hazelton. They're all there. I don't know how patient is our coach. Mr. How patient is he going to be up there with a few of these non-performing first rounders at the Cowboys, because they were really poor. Their defence was really ordinary.
He wasn't real patient. He's dropped Nanai. So Nanai's an Australian rep, Origin rep. He's been dropped. He's back to Q Cup. Listen, they were very poor last week. He was very brutal and honest about that in his post-match press conference and in some of the comments that he's made during the course of the week. Really interesting how they turned that around, because they also come off a very physical game. It wasn't just that they were beat very poorly. They also come off a very physical encounter where they were trampled. If there's one team in the competition that has this amazing record of bouncing back from big 30 and 40-point losses to then really turn up the following week and 1 out of 2 times win, it's the Cowboys. They just have that Jekyll and Hyde about them. I certainly think at the line, and it keeps getting out, it's now out to 9.5. I don't want to be on the plus because I just don't trust where their attitude and their defence is. But certainly I do expect them to be better. Their left edge is a massive issue, the Sharks are going to have a lot of fun going there. That's Raymond's edge. That's also where Kennedy loves to run. They'll have some fun down that edge. Back from Vegas up to Townsville, so they've got a bit of travel in them. But as I said earlier, off what I think is the strongest rating game of round one, having played so well in that first game, they'd be really pissed off in a long flight home having a loss. They won 4 of the last 5 in Townsville and won 5 of the last 7 against the Cowboys. Sharks will be winning for mine.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'll tell you what, if the Cowboys did keep those stats up with their bounce back from big losses, this would be an enormous upset.
Yeah, it would be.
Really big upset. It could be one that could clean out our last man standing.
And with the depth of draw that the Sharks have got in their opening 6 or 7 weeks and the amount of travel, they can't afford to be starting the season 0 from 2 if we've got them marked as a potential top 4 team.
2 form sides up next. We are going down to Canberra. This could be a really good game, I reckon. Saturday night, down in Canberra, Raiders versus the Broncos. So Raiders come back from Vegas, Cockahoo, after a really good performance over there. I thought they were definitely in very good form over there. And geez, I know you don't want to get too worked up about the Broncos just yet. You think maybe the standard of who they played against last week needs to be way more considered in the fact that they belted the Roosters. What do we see here? I mean, what's the spread here? 10?
Biggest market move of the week.
Is it?
Was 13.5. It's now 10.5. All the money's been with the Raiders at the start. And if we put that depth into perspective, Steve, if the Broncos go out there and win as comfortably as they did last week, and my issue is that, yes, it was great to win like they did, but it was like playing touch football. I mean, it was against nothing. And the opposition that they belted last week are now 21.5-point underdogs against the Panthers. So that tells you the market reaction to how little the market respects the depth of that game. So the Broncos are then on the road down to Canberra, where their record is tough. It's a poor record at the ground. They've only won 9 of the last 22. I'm talking 1 at the ground, let alone covered the line. I like the strengths about what they did. I like what they did in attack. I like what they're trying to set up. The fact that they can be physical through the middle. I want to see them play a really good opponent for a few weeks in a row and stack that up. I think they can, but this is a nice test. Problem for the Raiders is they come back and now play without Tarpany and Savage. They're 2 really key outs. At home's a positive, and they like being underdogs at home. It's a wide line. They're an underdog. The market is all over it. I'm happy to just tip the Broncos and watch.
So you wouldn't be inclined to take the start, Raiders?
No. I can't get it that wide. I'm still under where the market's got it to at 10. I was only 9.5, and I'm happy to just watch.
Yeah, it's a watch for me. I think the Raiders will be better than that. I think they could win with 10.5 start. Sunday, 4:00, Spoon. It's the Spoon battle. Revisit the Spoon. It's the Eels, who were just absolutely dreadful against a big, powerful Storm side, against the West Tigers, who have got a couple of very important ins. We've got Appy coming back in, Charlie Staines, Buller at the back, and a few changes for the Eels. We see Tuolagi, who played on the right side and was really, really ordinary. He's out. Sean Lane jumps in there. And we've got a debutant in Sam Rani, who came from the Bulldogs, can play. He's making a start on the wing. I'm actually really looking forward to this one because it's we had Benji walk out of a press conference last week after a tight loss to the Knights. First up coach Jason Riles, who needs a bounce back. There's a bit to potentially enjoy about this contest.
Well, I think that both teams improved this week. I mean, if we look at the Tigers, I mean, their attack generally was incredibly poor last week. They had enough ball to win 3 games. They could only score 8 points in the first half. Couldn't even add to that in the second half. The question marks are mine about the combination at 7 and 6. It'll be a big plus getting the 9 and the 1 back. They're 2 very key quality players.
Big time.
And make a big difference to what they do here. Eels, they've got to be better. They get back to Combank Park, which is where they do perform better. Lanes are very important in, but they still have 5 outs, and there's a bit of quality.
Only thing I'd say with Lane, Jared, is there's been fuck all reps there. You know, he hasn't played for quite some time.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't know. I don't know how many minutes he's got in him, but I think he'll do a job. But I don't know how many minutes he's got.
Well, the other worry is the depth of the bench too, Stephen. And off also a physical encounter last week. I can't be with anybody but the Tigers. I actually think the Tigers aim up here, and I just think that the 9 and the 1 are just such big ends, and that'll improve the quality of offering that comes from the spine. I personally think the Tigers probably win and win comfortably.
Okay. One thing I'd like to highlight here, I think they're two long-term first graders, is the 214s, Riley Smith and Talon De Silva at the Tigers. Both nines. Riley Smith debut last week and Talon debut last week, both coming off the bench. They were both very good. I think we'll see a lot of these kids. I think they're both 19. We'll see a lot of these kids in years to come.
Yeah, I thought De Silva was super when he got on. And I tell you the other guy I really like for a winger is the left edge winger for the Tigers, Jarrell Skelton. He can find a line. He's a big body. He knows how to score. He'd be a very nice anytime try scorer player in this game.
Okay. Righto, so you're on the Tigers. I'm on the Eels there. I'm going to stick with the Eels. Okay, Sunday 6:15. Desi's debut for the year with, let me say, a bloody strong side.
I smell an ambush here.
Yeah, me too. I think this is the strongest side that the Titans could probably pick, apart from the fact that Foran is not coming off the bench. But, gee, it's a strong pack when you've got Fafita, Chris Randall and Jolliffe on the bench. Apart from the captain, Crichton, he didn't get suspended. That's right. You can knee someone to the head and not get suspended. He got fined. They're pretty much unchanged, the Dogs. So, the Dogs.
The other key thing with the Dogs too is Hughes, who was named last week, was laid out and now is not named at all. So clearly he's got an injury worse than it was for a week. And he's a key out because he's a big body up front for them.
So you've got just listen to this pack for the Titans to start out.
That's where I was headed.
Yeah, Foateka, Verrills, RGS, Cleese Haas, both Firma and Tino back. Far out. That's a good pack and a big physical pack.
Big Jamin Joel off the bench in rotation too, and
Fafita.
He's been very good for them, but I mean in the middle. He's been very good for them in the last couple of years. And then you've got Fafita, who'll get used on most likely the left edge. Randall's been very good and started many of their games over the last 18 months. The Titans are a big show here. I mean, I like the positives about the Bulldogs last week, that their attitude was great. They turned up in defence. They scrambled really well. I thought that they played to short ruck plays that came up with some nice tries, and it was just some really smart coaching. At Belmont, the joint will be pumping. It'll be full. You'll be buying kebabs for 15 hours after the game.
I wonder if that Dragons fan, the pie thrower, that's been charged with assault, I wonder if he turns up. What an idiot.
Insult to the game that guy was.
Yeah, absolute idiot.
The Titans, they went down to Sydney on Monday. They've had a few days to train. They've got a similar week of dislocation like the Dolphins, but it's all about Hasler and going back to Belmore, going back to the Bulldogs, flying under the radar. He loves this sort of stuff. He eats it for breakfast. Their record when they travel is not great, but their record at the line as an underdog is very good. I think the Bulldogs win. I don't think there's 10 points between them.
This is my upset for the week. I'm gonna back Titans first up.
Will we see that in a tipping comp?
It just depends if you know who I am. I've got lots of aliases floating around in the tipping comp, and let me tell you, none of them are doing any good. And we're only round one.
We had 241 entries, and 19 were under you.
Oh, I think 240 were under me, and 240 were wrong. Anyway, right. Well, that rounds out round two. I think
Tips?
I think that last game is probably the one that I'm most looking forward to, apart from when the Dragons get up.
Knights, Eagles, Panthers, Dragons, Sharks, Broncos, Tigers, Bulldogs. I thought the best play of the week was the Dragons to cover the line. I thought the best underdog of the week was the Titans.
Yeah, well, I'm Knights, Eagles, Panthers, Dragons, Sharks, Bronx, Eels, Titans. Slightly different.
Okay,
And
so
what's your multi anytime try scorer? What are you throwing out there this week?
my best is the Dragons to cover the line. At
Oh my
$1.90.
God!
At the moment,
hell. Louis, turn this podcast off.
I'm 2 from 2. I've got 110 in the bank off the multi-bet last week, and
So hang on. So repeat it. You're going Dragons to cover 6.5 start to the Rabbits.
correct.
Okay, right.
And what's your
Okay.
multi?
I'm going the same, but it's a multi, so it's 2, all right, not 1. So I'm going Dragons to cover the start into Titans with start.
Okay, good.
And let's just be correct there. The Titans are getting
8.5.
yes, they are getting 8.5. So I'm giving 6.5 into 8.5. That's my multi.
See, you've just bagged me relentless, and then you're on the same bandwagon.
You didn't say Titans, did you? I thought you just said just Dragon.
No, my bet this week is just one out, and that's the Dragons.
Yeah.
And you bag me relentless for 30 minutes about the Dragons, and then you're taking them at the line as well.
No, it's called a multi. I'm looking for value. So hang
Enjoy
on.
the weekend.
No, wait up. Let me just tell you what that is for our listeners. Okay, you're paying $3.78. That's my multi. I need to bounce back. Far out, I need to bounce back at the tipping comp.
Get your tips in, folks.
Righto, we will catch you bright and early next week. We'll see what rolls out this weekend and what deals come about, and how much Ponga's going to get paid to go to the Roosters, and Ben Hunt to go back to the Dragons, and what else could happen.
Should we turn off now so the lawyers don't get involved?
Goodbye.